I mean, so you presented the pot, right? And that didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Maybe you just need to, and you already presented the image on the image. But it wasn't the full image, right?
Oh, wrong button.
What did you accidentally do?
I presented the evidence list again. Because the problem is I can't present the picture to itself, or I can't point at it and be like, that's wrong. And now I can't think of anything else.
Weapon found in wound was missing tip. I think this might be it. Did you want to present the autopsy?
Yep, there we go.
Yeah.
I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but this picture the witness drew contains a blatant contradiction.
It all has to do with the knife tip.
Yeah, so I really think in that one the knife should have also counted, maybe?
But the knife already had a broken tip in that. So
No.
Only the autopsy would have revealed that the tip was left in him.
Yeah, that's fair, but we could have explained that. Yeah, you're right, though.
Mm-hmm. What? But I still just remember it like it was yesterday.
Mr. Wright, perhaps it would be faster if you simply pointed out this contradiction for us. What part of this picture contradicts the autopsy?
Yep, that.
The contradiction, of course, lies here. Take a look at the knife the man is holding. If you look closely, you can see its tip's broken. Even I don't have to look closely to see that, Mr. Wright.
But, Mr. Wright, look at the evidence. See the murder weapon? Its tip is broken, too.
If I recall, the tip of the knife was broken off in the victim's body.
It was the conclusive piece of evidence that proved Joe Dark was the murderer.
I'm afraid it's not so simple, Amber. And where, pray tell, could you possibly see a problem? It's obvious, really. The victim suffered a single stab wound to the back. If the victim was only stabbed once, then the murder weapon should not yet be broken. Ah! What's the meaning of this? Perhaps the knife was broken beforehand. Sorry, but I'm afraid that's not possible. The tip of the knife was found inside the victim's body. If it was broken beforehand, it couldn't possibly wind up there. That's right, but what does that mean? The tip of the knife was undeniably discovered within the victim's body. The only possible explanation is the witness's memory is mistaken. That's why I asked her so many times if she was sure she remembered correctly. I believe you were annoyed at the time, but she was sure she remembered correctly. But there's no other way to explain this inconsistency. Not so fast, Mr. Edgeworth. There's another explanation. Have you forgotten already? About a little something called falsified evidence. You're treading on thin ice, right?
You mean they put the tip inside it?
Uh-huh. All I'm saying is that this broken knife tip might be the piece of evidence that was forged. You can't deny the possibility. No. No. Order! 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 Are you saying the investigation was really corrupted? Your Honor, please allow me to once again go over the events that took place the day of the murder. The police department and the prosecutor's office were holding a ceremony that day. After receiving the King of Prosecutors Award at the ceremony, Neil Marshall questioned Joe Dark along with Damon Gant. During his questioning, Joe Dark fled the room. Prosecutor Marshall chased after him and was killed by Dark. It is my belief that somewhere in this story there's a lie. Ah.
I'm not lying. The man really was holding up a broken knife.
If that's true, then there's no other way around it. This could not have been the actual murder weapon. There must have been another broken knife. What are the chances of there being two broken knives? Another broken knife besides Joe Dark's. There had been one.
Yeah.
If the witness... Okay, I'm gonna save again, just in case. Because there's two things I could present. If the witness is this adamant about the accuracy of what she saw, it can't just be explained away by a simple observational error.
Mr. Wright,
In that instant, Emma really did see a broken knife. I assume, then, that you have some information about this other broken knife. If so, please feel free to enlighten us. The murder weapon was already broken prior to the murder. There's only one way. Take a look at this. Here's the real murder weapon. Probably that?
Either you present that or the photograph
Probably
with
this.
that, yeah.
If anything's broken here, it's you. Huh? I'm sure this all must be very amusing to you, Mr. Wright. But remind you... God damn it.
What?
Come on.
It was the photograph, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's stupid.
Wait, you're saving rather than loading?
No.
Or you're loading? Okay. It's probably the photograph then with the whole statue.
The answer lies in the past. 2 years in the past. Right here, inside this picture. This is a picture of the award ceremony. Oh, this is a picture of the award ceremony. What is it, Mr. Edgeworth? It's the broken murder weapon. Notice the award Prosecutor Marshall is holding.
Why would they make it a piece that could separate?
I mean, if you're strong enough, it could separate.
That's a broken knife.
As we earlier concluded, the knife in the drawing was not Joe Dark's knife. That being the case, the knife the witness saw was in all likelihood from this award. Order! 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 Neil Marshall was awarded King of Prosecutors that day. As an award, he was given this broken shield and knife. When he chased after Joe Dark, he pulled out this knife. Being a prosecutor, he did not carry a pistol. This broken knife was the only weapon he had in this dangerous situation. But that can't be. Oh, why not, Mr. Edgeworth? Because if the King of Prosecutors award knife was the murder weapon, then the murder and the victim would be reversed. What do you mean? I mean, this man raising a knife would have been Prosecutor Neil Marshall. Oh. No! But the prosecutor was the one who actually died. That's true. What's going on here? It seems Mr. Wright has been a bit too eager to jump to conclusions.
Hold it. Oh, it's her. Hold it. Wait. I remember now. I remember everything.
Witness?
Mr. Edgeworth.
What is it?
Could you show me your evidence list again, please?
His list? The one with that picture scribbled on the back.
Oh no. I knew it. This picture. I'm the one who drew it.
What? You're the origin of the Blue Badger. Death penalty! You drew that?
That's right. The list wasn't torn in half at the time I drew this picture. No, not this music.
It's back!
No,
Ah!
no. All this time I've been trying so hard to forget. I must have locked this part away deep inside of... This is just so weird. Of course you would. The Blue Badger? Really?
She's a werehog! A werebadger! Perhaps it would be best if we added this to the witness's testimony.
That music just was getting to me there.
Will you please tell us what you've recalled, Miss Skye?
Yes, Your Honor.
First the knife mix-up, and now the Blue Badger? This should be interesting.
Oh, did the pot hit her in the head and that's why she passed out?
Possibly.
When I saw that man raise his knife, I panicked and rushed towards both of them. I think I knocked away the man with the knife. Just then there was another flash of lightning, and that's when I saw the Blue Badger. He wasn't in the room, but I'm sure I saw his shadow.
This is certainly most unusual. Why impossible? The chief of detectives hadn't even designed him until this year. That would mean he didn't even exist 2 years ago. Yes, well, the defense may now begin to assess some of that.
Stop! Please! Don't pursue this any further.
Lana, what's the meaning of this? Please remain seated in the defendant's chair.
But you can't do this. I've already confessed to the crime. Why can't you just leave it at that?
Chief Prosecutor Sky, we've already come this far. It's too late to turn back. Silence! The defense will now begin its cross-examination. Bailiff, please detain the defendant. It seems we're finally getting to the core of the matter.
Water. Cross-examination. Emma's recollection.
No water for you? When you say that man, I assume you refer to Joe Dark.
Yes, at least I think it was him.
You think?
All I could really see were shadows.
The power outage that immediately preceded the incident is also documented in the prosecutor's office reports. But then you...
I panicked and rushed towards both of them.
Why would you do something so dangerous?
What else could I have done? He was about to stab Mr. Marshall.
She seems convinced that Dark was the one holding the knife. But as we just theorized, Mr. Marshall was the one holding the knife.
Well, I didn't know that at the time. When that Dark guy knocked me down, all I could think about was, I've got to help that other person. I think I knocked away the man with the knife. So is she, in a way, responsible for the death? Oh, yep.
What do you mean you think?
It all happened so fast, and I was in shock. I don't remember everything clearly. What I did, it's all a kind of blur.
Oh. Gant has Lana thinking that she somehow helped kill Marshall.
Right.
Or even she was the one that killed him, or... Miss Sky was almost killed before she was witness to a murder about to take place. With so much happening in a matter of seconds, a little disorientation is only natural.
I saw the man about to stab the other person, who I thought was Mr. Marshall. I knew I had to stop the man with the knife.
What you did was very brave, young girl. So then, what happened next?
Okay, then the blue badger.
Are you sure about this?
Of course. See? I even drew a picture of him here.
But it was the chief of detectives who thought up this hideous beast. And that was just this year. The blue badger didn't exist 2 years ago. This is all quite verifiable.
I know it sounds strange. I was surprised too when I saw him at the police department. I had this nagging feeling that I'd seen him from before somewhere. Now I finally remember.
Oh, brother, just when you thought that thing had caused enough commotion. Tell us, where in the room did you see him dancing?
He wasn't in the room, but I'm sure I saw his shadow.
The blue badger didn't even exist 2 years ago. So what exactly did Emma see? I've gathered all the evidence. All that's left now is to put the pieces of the puzzle together.
Okay, so why don't we go to the blue badger?
It's one of these
Wait,
two.
the shadow. The shadow. And then present the pot. There you go.
The mysterious blue badger was in fact this. But that's... what exactly is that? I believe it's some sort of jar.
But Mr. Wright, that doesn't look anything like the blue badger.
Indeed it doesn't. As it stands now, it's just a plain jar. However, what if we were to change our viewpoint? Our viewpoint? I've got to show them. What? Oh.
Just Just the noise. No music. We don't want it. Okay, and then flip it up a little bit more. Whoop, whoop, whoop. A little bit more. We need to make it look like it's really curved.
No, it has to be far away.
Mm-hmm. There we go. That's starting to look like it. Up, 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 up.
I'm trying.
Up, 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 up. Up, 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 up.
That's about as good as
More.
I'm going to be able to get it.
More.
No.
Okay, that's good.
This isn't right. Oh. Gotta make it look... Okay. I've got to find just the right angle. Maybe I should rotate it horizontally.
Come on, Mr. Wright, you can do it! Is there a way for you to overlap it, or...
Nope.
Make sure it's twisted just so. Okay. Now, let's do it up, up, up. No, no, yep, yep, up, up. Okay. That looks...
Pretty good.
Oh, wait.
Yep.
There you go.
I was pretty close to that.
Mhm.
Well, is this a miracle or what? No one can possibly deny this jar's resemblance to the blue badger.
And maybe the chief of police just happened to see it on his...
It can't be.
on the evidence sheet.
Order! Order! The defense has proven its claim. The mysterious blue badger witnessed on the day of the crime was actually this. Although we all enjoyed Mr. Wright's dramatic performance, one question remains. What's your point? What do you mean? That badger thing was actually just a jar. That doesn't change anything. I'm afraid that's where you're wrong, Mr. Edgeworth. You see, this changes everything. Indeed. Very well then, please tell us. What's so different now that we know the witness saw this jar? Murderer? Murder weapon?
Wait a minute. Where was... So it's location, the murderer, that's still in the room. But look, it's on the right side of the room, rather than the left side.
Because the window would be on the left.
Unless they never moved the suit of armor. The suit of armor was on the right side of the room.
Wait. No, that does matter. It's the location. Because that's behind Gant's desk.
But...
She was at Lana's desk.
Right.
Allow me to take these in turn. At the moment of the murder, the witness saw this jar. At a very specific angle, I might add, Mr. Wright. Yes, well, knowing this, where could she have seen this jar? Where? The location of the jar is shown in a picture taken on the day of the crime. It's on a shelf in the office of Damon Gant. But the body was found lying near Lana Sky's desk. The witness testified so herself. Yes, and it is these two facts that reveal what actually transpired. You see, the struggle between Dark and Marshall did not take place in Lana Sky's office. It happened on the other side of the room in Chief Gant's office. Are you implying the murderer moved the victim's body from Damon Gant's office to Lana Sky's office? Yes. Why would he do that? There's no reason. Exactly. If there wasn't a reason, he would have gone through the trouble. The only logical conclusion is that there was a reason. Do you know what that reason was, Mr. Wright? I finally figured it out. So this is why Lana tried to stop the trial. It's too late to quit now, though. I'm gonna save again.
So, the narrative that they're trying to pull is She was looking, in fact, at the other window.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow a pot was flying through the air just as she was pushing the knife man into the statue's dagger.
I have no idea. Please recall the witness's testimony. She said she knocked away the man who was holding up the knife. In the next instant, the jar was hit and flew through the air. Now tell me, what could have sent that jar flying? That would have to have been the impact the man made when he was knocked into the wall. Ladies and gentlemen, if I may draw your attention to this picture once more. If the man was knocked in the direction of the shelf the jar was sitting on, what would he have hit? The suit of armor, holding a very sharp and dangerous-looking sword. Yes. And since the man who was knocked into the armor was carrying a broken knife, he would have had to have been Neil Marshall, wielding the King of Prosecutors trophy. No, Mr. Wright, you can't be thinking. Yes. There's another possibility of what actually transpired in that room. Another possibility? Of course the perpetrator would have had no idea, but nevertheless... I don't know if I can go through with this. Mr. Wright, what's the matter? If events took place as the defense theorizes, then the outcome is obvious. In that moment, assuming the man Emma Skye knocked away was actually Prosecutor Neil Marshall. Oh, shit.
You mean Mr. Marshall died because of me? No! Did she faint again?
I never imagined her testimony would lead to this. So it was the witness who took the victim's life, and then proved so with her own testimony. This is unprecedented.
What? What are you saying?
I'm sorry, Miss Skye, but given the circumstances...
Joe Dark murdered Prosecutor Marshall. How can you think it was Emma? How dare you try to pin the crime on her?
Imagine that coming from you. If you recall, it was you who admitted to forging evidence 2 years ago. The reason you moved Prosecutor Marshall's body was to keep anyone else from finding out about what Emma did, wasn't it?
I assure you, Mr. Edgeworth, I have no idea what you're talking about. If you hope to have anyone believe your insane allegations, I'm afraid you're going to have proof. Tell me, do you have any conclusive evidence that proves my sister killed Neil Marshall?
Evidence?
I'm willing to bet you don't.
Yes. It certainly would be difficult to prove with this evidence. If we don't have evidence, then we'll all have to rely on testimony.
I'm afraid that won't work in this case. Both parties involved in the incident are dead.
We certainly can't get dead people to testify. This has all been a wild goose chase from the very beginning. Huh. Touché, Miss Skye. Of course, that only leaves us with one possibility. You mean there's still another possibility? What do you mean, Mr. Edgeworth? I mean the possibility that the victim has left us a message. For better or worse, Mr. Marshall did not die instantly. He may have left behind a name of the person who took his life, in one manner or another.
That's impossible.
Well, Mr. Wright, this is the only possibility left to you. A message from the deceased. Does such a message exist? I've got to think back to the court record. The real murderer's name that the victim may have left behind.
I mean,
it's on the pot?
There is the scrawling on the pot that we couldn't make out.
Is in the evidence. This message from the deceased is already in our possession.
Mr. Wright, please stop at nothing to prove my sister's a murderer.
Do not be mistaken, Miss Sky. Our purpose is not to accuse Emma of any crime. There's only one thing we seek, the truth. No matter how painful it may be. Now then, Mr. Wright, please show us the piece of evidence that conveys a message from the deceased. The pot.
It's a bot.
This is the message left by the deceased. This is that blue badger from before, right?
Oh, is he going to just speak the killer's name?
That thing could, I'm sure it would. Looks like everyone's forgotten this is just a jar. A message was left here, on the surface of this jar. What do you mean? If you look closely, you can see a faint trail of blood on the jar. It looks like someone wiped the blood away. Yes, but notice, for some reason, the blood on some of the fragments was not wiped away. Yes, there's a line here. Drawn in blood. So what you're saying is that the dots were once lines. Prosecutor Marshall did not die instantly. He used the few precious moments left to him to leave behind a message. One that someone apparently wiped away, but blood must have seeped into the jar when the lines changed directions. Precisely so. All we need to do is connect these points, and the victim's message will become apparent.
No!
Mr. Wright, what kind of message did the victim leave for us? Your Honor, I believe these bloodstains will reveal to us the answer. Gotta connect these dots to make letters. There's only one thing the victim would have written given the circumstances. His murderer's name.
It really does look like Emma, though. Is there any way to make it look like anything else?
Nope. What an asshole!
Oh, before you finish that, was there? Yeah, there was no way it could have been.
There's no
Gant or
way
dark
it's not
or anything. It
anything
has
else.
to be Emma because there's only 3 letters.
It's a defense attorney's duty to prove their client's innocence. That's why all I've been thinking about is saving Lana. After all my efforts, I never thought it would turn out like this. Emma. So this is the final message Prosecutor Marshall left behind. Of all people, she may not have meant it, but in the end, the one who took the victim's life was Emma Sky. Seaworthy, can't say I didn't warn you. Chief Gant. Do you understand the implications of what you've done? What? What are you talking about? 2 years ago, Joe Dark was sentenced to death. He was convicted because of his final murder. I believe you were the one, you were the prosecutor in the case, were you not? Yes, Worthy. Because of you, an innocent man was sentenced to death.
Wait, but he was guilty of a lot more.
But they
than
never
just
had
that.
proof.
They never had proof for the other ones, but...
Not only that, but you used forged evidence to ensure his conviction. But Joe Dark really was a serial murderer. That's undeniable. I'm afraid that's not important. Did you know we aren't defenders of justice? What? We're merely keepers of the law. Sentencing a man to death is no light matter, even if there wasn't any cover-up or evidence forgery. Ultimately, the responsibility falls on the prosecutor in charge. Despite what anyone may say, this fact cannot be denied. What's going on in the prosecutor's office?
They might have sent an innocent man to his death.
How can he just stand there like it wasn't his fault? Order! 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 The gavel's pounding fell on deaf ears. Unable to settle the crowd, the judge declared a recess. Where this trial is headed, no one knows.
To be continued.